Hi, I'm Cynthia Short from Lexico, a transformation services consultancy. In this video, we're going to spend some time exploring what it really means to be a data-driven organization. I'm joined today by Lexico advisor and digital transformation expert, Dan Mishich. Thanks for joining us today, Dan.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today on the topic, the area I'm extremely passionate about. It's a common term thrown around in the industry with lots of different perspectives in regards to its meaning. So looking forward to this discussion.
Awesome. I mean, I think too, we've toyed around and, had conversations about one of the key characteristics of being truly data driven is this concept of really looking at data as an asset and what that means for companies. Curious on that, I think that's been kind of core to our definition. And a lot of people see value in data, but really don't manage it or utilize it, let's just say, as they would any other asset in their organization. Real estate is a good example, right? It's pretty easy to see, real estate as an asset that a company holds, and all the rigor around planning, governance, maintenance, access, utilization, so on and so forth around something like that. But we don't see data looked at like that very often. Why do you think that is?
Interesting, perspective on it overall. I think a lot of organizations, they abuse data for data's sake. It's a lot easier to get their job done on a daily basis. However, that is whatever shortcuts they take. A lot of the processes and the systems and the way that people perform in their jobs today don't necessarily have the disciplines, as you had indicated, to kind of protect the data and ensure that the integrity is there. A lot of organizations don't really realize that either until it comes a point in time when they want to try to leverage that data, potentially for some decision making. A lot of organizations today struggle specifically around customer data, right? Just having a single source of truth of their customers, a 360-degree view. And I mean, that's just so powerful. That's how we run and operate businesses today. It's at the core essence of everything that a business is in business to do.
Right. It's so core, but it's fascinating how it's often an afterthought. It's like, especially in and around technology implementations and realizing the full value of those and so on and so forth. It's, like after the fact, it's like, oh yeah, we probably should have planned input, output, like how we're going to use it, what we expect to learn from it, out of the gate, which again, is, kind of bringing, I think that's a key characteristic as well, too, that we see in organizations that are truly data driven, is that data and conversations and intentional planning and design is part of their strategic conversations and planning across the board, rather than in, oh, we should have thought about that afterwards, and now we have to go back and retro or,
Right. Yeah, and it's it's key to all the other investments. So you talk about data being like an asset of an organization, and it enables organizations. The systems that organizations use as well is a huge enabler, as well as an asset for an organization. But technology systems in and of themselves, I mean, they're only as good as the data that's within them. The true value of those really comes out of the data. You can implement any software to your heart's desire to fix a business problem, right? And a lot of companies will do it, but at the pure essence of it, if you don't fix those underlying data issues, the software is only as good as its weight in, I don't know if you want to call it systems or whatever. I want to call it weight in gold, but.
Yeah, I think that, it points to really, I think understanding that whole data value chain, as, if you will, there's a lot of people who get to, really good reporting and, call it a day. if you will. And if you kind of look at, and there's all kinds of versions, just like everything else in frameworks, but the value chain of really collecting and understanding, or gathering, to reporting, to then being able to have that design to a place where there's real analysis that can go on, ultimately can influence and inform action. That's when you really get to the value, right? The value output of data. And I think that's one of the core, really being able to optimize or understand and optimize, through that value chain, ultimately gets you to kind of that data-driven version of an organization.
Right. And it becomes cyclical too, because as you mentioned, organizations will use data, they'll report on it, they'll glean insights on it, make decisions based on that to go out and do something new and innovative, or to capitalize on some opportunity in the market. But after you make a decision based off of that data that you've got, you now have to employ it, get it working, and now report back on it again on the back end to see that, were the decisions that you made from that data, did they hold their weight in gold?
Mm-hmm.
Did they actually come to fruition, those opportunities, the way that the organization had originally anticipated?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times organizations, they'll strive for that perfection in data. Everybody thinks that data has to be perfect. That's not necessarily the case always, because perfection, there's a law of diminishing returns around data and how well you curate that data. So sometimes good enough data to make the right decisions, make them informed, and make the decisions and measure thereafter, and adjust your sales as you're kind of moving forward. So there's nothing wrong with making the best decisions possible based off of whatever decision points that you currently have. What does the data outputs mean to the business at the end? It's powerful in the right hands of individuals. And I guess, that's an awesome maybe area to kind of pivot to on data is, right, big to data-driven organizations is empowering the employees of organizations with full access to data. Mm-hmm. So historically, if you lean back on where things have been, organizations had data warehouses and data reporting marks and all this stuff that they only allowed access to certain individuals. Well, as you enable a data-driven organization, the goal is to empower everybody who needs that information to be able to make decisions. So before, we were always afraid that somebody would get their hands on the data, misinterpret it, and use it in the wrong way. Well, I think we're beyond that now.
Well, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because, around main goals of, better decision making and all of that. Again, the walled up data with access by a few is not part of the definition of a data-driven organization by any means. And I do think that, the culture shift, even the new behaviors and understanding of decision making with data, informed by data, is often one of the things that gets missed in terms of the work that has to be done in order to really realize, ultimate outcome of any kind of, shift to, relying and investing and really looking at data as this enabler and asset. Because you're right. I think that all that effort that goes into even, understanding that value chain and optimizing it, all comes down to people using it. So it doesn't matter how great your data is, or how perfect, as you put it, could be, if it's not accessible and people don't understand how to make insight-driven decisions, not necessarily, past performance metrics-driven decisions, you'll never realize the full potential. And that's a lot of work. That's a lot of change. Well, that is all that we have for today. We've enjoyed the conversation, but we always love hearing from you and learning from everybody else's experience as well. So if you would love to hear from you in terms of the experiences that you've had. Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so we can have more discussions like this. So see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.